I am thrilled to have our guest on the call today. We are incredibly blessed to have a special guest. Tori introduced us to our guest, Margaux, who's here. Tori, what do we need to know about Margaux? How do we know Margaux? Tell us a little bit about her.
Yeah, so I had the pleasure of meeting Margaux at my gym. She is one of the spin instructors that I love taking her classes.
Guys all got your yoga pants on. We're spinning today, baby. Let's go.
She, I think a big thing about being on this team is a lot of like personal growth, personal development. And some of you know I've been really trying to get back into like my fitness and my health journey. And so I've found success in classes, and Margot's class I really love. She's very motivating. And, anyways, there was one day where she made like a self-deprecating joke that she was an Olympic swimmer. And I was taken back because I was like, I don't know exactly how the joke goes. Maybe you can tell it again. But just the fact that she has like such incredible success in an aspect of her life, I knew that she had a really cool story to tell, and I really wanted her to get on the call and, be inspiring to the rest of you the way that she is to me.
I love it, Tori. Thank you. Margaux, welcome to the Miale team, leadership and personal development call. Okay. So, this call, a little background, we started doing this call many, many years ago when I realized my own flaws in leadership, specifically because I got this, as the guy who has the name on the sign, I got all these opportunities to go and be around really successful, wildly successful people who'd had, lots of success in their careers. And I got to get in these rooms and I got to be on interviews and in panels and all this stuff. And I would learn so much. And then I would come back to the team and try to, take all that knowledge that I'd taken out of a 3-day seminar and turn it into 15 minutes of sound bites and sound super brilliant. And I was really terrible at it. And so I said, I'm not doing such a great job of this. I should just get out of the way and bring the leaders to the team. And so today, that's you. And we're so happy to have you. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate being called to do this. It's something I've done a little on and off since my time in the Olympics. And after that, I was a news broadcaster. I was a news anchor for a while. So I've had some different careers, both professionally, academically, and athletically, that have put me in positions where I've been able to kind of reassess what it takes to be successful, what it takes to get to where I think it is that I want to go, where these crazy goals are that I put on the map for myself. The joke I think that Tori's referring to was I believe we were doing a weight song, and it was called Number One. And I brought up a joke of when I was a news anchor and somebody graciously on the internet told me that since I had a bronze medal, I was in fact the second loser. And that was
Ooh.
that was out of nowhere. There was no rebuttal. I hadn't posted anything provoking. That was just a comment that someone wanted me to see at 7 o'clock in the morning one day. So I told my class, I said, "You guys are all number one, but just so you know, I'm number three, and that's the second loser." So
Well, actually, one of my all-time favorite, and I'm dying to ask you about this. So we're gonna jump right in, Margaux. We're gonna jump right into the deep stuff, okay?
sure.
Which is where this team likes to swim. One of the things that I think is, just really crucial for high performers, for achievers, for people that seek out big things in life, is to find a way to seek fulfillment through the process. And you're a swimmer, so of course, no stranger to Michael Phelps. And we all know because he's been vulnerable and candid and shared publicly his own struggle with achieving so much and then finding his life to be relatively empty afterward and struggling with depression and struggling with sort of finding an identity in that. Now, there's a study that says that it's part of a happiness study that says that bronze medalists in the
Yeah.
Olympics are actually the happiest. That those who achieve the bronze medal of the three are the ones that have the greatest joy after medaling. And I don't remember the source of the study. I'm gonna look it up before the end of this call just so I can share it. And I want to hear your thoughts on that. Tell me your thoughts on that idea as someone who has actually won an Olympic bronze medal, which is astounding. And anyone that calls you a loser is a loser. Um, but I mean, one of my favorite quotes is the man in the arena, which is Teddy Roosevelt, and like you competed, you did it, you won, right? And you got the bronze medal. So are bronze medalists truly the happiest on the pedestal?
To be honest, I think everyone's happy at that point. But I could see where that comes from because the bronze medal is the one where you're the closest of not being on there.
Yes.
So, if you're first, and especially with the way, so I swam in a relay, so it's a whole different landscape of how it looks like on the day of competition. So I swam in the morning, and then because so I swam for the country of France. I'm a dual citizen. My mother swam for France, missed the 1976 games by a hundredth of a second. So whenever anybody is like, "Why'd you swim for France?" I always tell that story. I shared that connection with my mother. Had coaches who coached her and then coached me before they passed away. Swam in pools she swam in, so always felt very French when it came to swimming. And having swam in the NCAA, you kind of are in a mixed bag anyways, because most kids come from across the world to train somewhere in the United States. So a lot of the same faces that I'm seeing at the Olympics. And I remember there was a possibility that we could get a medal, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't really think that that was going to be the case, especially because I was going into the Olympics with a major injury. I didn't know at the time that I had torn my labrum in my hip. I just knew that I had a lot of pain. So 5 days before I swam my race, I had 9 injections in my spine. I was limping. I was just trying to keep it at bay, trying to not tell the team doctors too much of what was happening so I wouldn't get pulled off of that relay. So for me, yeah, I could definitely see how third place could be the most exciting one because there were so many opportunities leading up to it where that could have really almost not manifested, whether it be because of my injury, whether it be just because I failed. I mean, most people who go to the Olympics, they're not hitting their peak times.
Mhm.
The very, very small percentage of people who get best time at the Olympic Games, and those are usually the ones who are on the podium. And that's because, some people, for lack of a better word, and excuse my French, but I am French, they shit the bed.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of pressure. You're swimming in front of 18,000 people. I'm 21 years old, and it was, the biggest experience of my life. I'd swam internationally at competitions before, European Championships, World University Games.
Yeah, but this is the one, right?
This is the one. And so,
Yeah.
and to be in a relay and to not have it be individual as well, to know like, oh man, if I go down, I'm bringing my whole team down. I'm bringing all of France down. And there's a chance for a medal. So there was a lot of pressure. So I almost feel like when you look at it that way, and then when that was the final result, I can see why you were so
That,
close to almost not being there.
the logic, this study was so profound for me as somebody who suffers from the affliction of high achieving, right? Like perpetual moving of the goalposts, perpetual like seeking of much must be better, must be higher, should be better, comparing myself to other people, like and everyone on this call suffers from that on some level. And then at some point, I decided in my adulthood that it wasn't really a great way to live, being so always see and that you could go inward and decide like, well, at what point am I happy? And I
Mhm.
read this study and I thought it was so profound and interesting because essentially what they said is the gold medalists have worked so hard to achieve this thing, and when they get it, there is this moment, like this brief moment of total elation and joy, and then now what? And that emptiness on the other side, which is what Michael Phelps talked about. And honestly, not just him. I just use him because obviously it's a super relevant example, but not just him, but tons of people that get to that, whether they won the Masters in a golf championship, get to the other side of it and kind of go like, I feel a little listless, directionless. I don't know what else to do. I've always wanted this thing. Now I have it. Now what? The silver medalist is pissed because they usually just missed the gold by some fraction of a second, like your mom, 1/100th of a second. to be in the games or not in the games. And the silver medalist is just usually standing there grinding about that one. They're replaying in their head that one moment where, oh, I breathed for too long, or I did, I took the turn too hard, or whatever. And the bronze medalist is like, we did it. Like, we're here. Like, we made it. Like, we weren't going to get gold. Like, we made it. Like, we did it. And I thought that was such a cool way to look at, and really just, anecdotally to look at life. Like, joy is this inner thing that you get to experience as a byproduct of what you do. And I could totally see how that would be a thing. So your story is very relevant because you went through the process, and like you said, you didn't know. So when you found out, what was that like? When it was like, hey, guess what? You did it.
So, kind of to your point, when I found out, I mean, of course, there was the elation, there was the joy. I'm usually a very chatty person, and I think for about 45 minutes, I had no words. I couldn't speak. But at the same time, on that back end, you talk about how that moment of elation is so brief and that you're always moving the goalpost. I was pissed. I was pissed. I did not swim my best time in the morning. I did not get to swim at night. I knew I was injured in some capacity. I didn't know what it was. I didn't think I was going to be continuing to swim after that. I thought I was retiring. So I was not in a good place mentally. I was ready to be done with the sport, which
Mm.
shocks a lot of people. A lot of people think that they're like, oh, it was the best day of her life. She loves this sport. It's what she's been dreaming of. And to be quite honest, in the morning after I swam, I cried because I knew I wasn't going to swim at night. And I knew I had just missed like a time I wanted to go. And, instead of thinking like, hey, Margaux, you're 21 years old, you're at the Olympic Games, you hit the time, you've got something wrong, you didn't mess up, we're in finals, there's still the chance for the medal. Like I did everything I needed to do. But I was so used to being programmed to seeing this is the next accolade, this is the next venture, this is the next goal, that I kind of went into that motion again. Well, am I retiring? Could I have done better? Well, what was wrong with my splits in the morning? And I'm running through the whole gamut instead of just taking a second. And then I was moving right to the next extreme, which was, okay, well, now I'm done swimming. Now I'm done. I don't have to do this. This sport has broken my heart, but at the same time, it's given me so much. It was a really conflicting feeling.
I love it.
But I was in that pattern of always looking at what's next, and I had and still kind of suffer with a little bit of imposter syndrome where I would look at something, and because I would do it, I wouldn't think it was that difficult to do. So if I went to the Olympic Games and I went this time, then it wasn't that difficult to do, and I've got to make the goal a little bit steeper, and I've got to make this a little bit harder to reach. And at a certain point, it's almost like the older I get, the more I've kind of come to realize the flaw in that thinking, and maybe where I got swept up being so young and being at that level at a young age, is that you have to appreciate it along the way.
Mm.
Because if you don't, you are just asking for a recipe for burnout, which I have experienced. I'm very open with my mental health. I've struggled with it. Similarly, I'm not Michael Phelps, I'm not Simone Biles, but I've been open and candid about my own struggles with mental health. I think it's important for athletes and people in high profile positions to do that. But I struggled with that because every time I hit something, what's the next one? What's the next dopamine hit? So it's very, what you're talking about is, it's really kind of hitting home, because I look at it, and anytime I meet somebody now who doesn't know much about swimming or maybe doesn't know much about my background, I'm almost more inspired and proud of myself now than I was 10 years ago,
Yeah.
because I'm with people who are so far removed from it versus when I was in a highly competitive scenario where maybe teammates are jealous, like, why did she get to go and I missed it, and you're kind of butting heads at that point, versus when you're older and people just see, hey, you went to the Olympics. They don't know the drama, they don't know the training stories, they just say, hey, you went to the Olympics and that's awesome and I want to talk to you about it. And so I've become more proud and more settled with myself as I've gotten older, because I realize you can't live by just chasing the highs, you got to also live in the lows. You got to live in the everyday and the mundane, because that's the only way you get to those high points.
You said so many very, very, very smart things that I want to address. The first one you said that I wrote down here is, if you can do it, it must be easy. I personally remember having the same uh, epiphany around something and recognizing at some point, and I've shared this with the team before too. The things that come easy to you are actually the gifts you've been given by God, the creator, whatever thing you believe created the version of you that exists and walks this planet. And that's what you're supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be easy for you, but we often discount the value of that thing that we're good at naturally because it wasn't hard for us, and therefore it must not be hard for others. We don't realize the view and the perspective that other people bring to it. I had no shot of ever being a bronze medalist in the Olympics in any sport at all, right? No shot at all. And because you're programmed to be such a high achiever, and combined with the fact that you had this natural gift that sort of came, your mom, obviously, there was an athletic genetic line, and then you put the work in. You thought, well, there's probably lots of people that could have done this. I just wound up here, right? Like, what a wild thing that we do to ourselves as humans. So for a moment, I just want the team, I want everyone on here to think about that there are things that you do. I remember having this conversation with Dan Raposo too, and saying like, Dan, the thing that you're so naturally gifted at, you don't lean into which is this human connection and relating to people because it's so easy for you, right? It's so easy that you don't think that there's anything to it. You don't think but like lots of people around us look at us for our natural gift and say, boy, I wish I could do that. But we just don't recognize it. The other thing you talked about was that program that was embedded in your training around like the moment you get to the end of anything, you immediately start dissecting, digesting, reevaluating, looking at what was right, what was wrong, where could it have been better, because that's actually the program for high achievers. For anybody that wants to achieve something, we're in this constant feedback loop, but we never take a moment to say, look how far I've come. Even at the Olympics, even at the moment when you win a medal, you immediately go into the program of, well, could it have been this way? Could it have been that way? Here's what I would have done different. Maybe I'm just altogether done with this because I don't want to do it again. But I see this with, we have Dave Pylon's on the team here. Dave's a pretty regular marathon runner. And I see this with Dave as Dave's gotten really into running, that most of the time when I talk to Dave about his running, he's telling me the things that went right, but also the things that weren't exactly the way. It wasn't my best time. It was, it's like, hey, Dave, congrats on the marathon. Yeah, it was pretty good. I'm like, dude, you ran 26.2 miles. I am utterly impressed at any point in time that you did it. Like, I don't know because I'm not competing, but that's what the high achiever mindset does. And it's a trap. It's a trap, right? Like, it shows up and it can degrade the success, and it can degrade and diminish what you worked so hard for.
Yeah, no, it's a trap in a lot of things, and it's led to, bouts of depression. It's led to anxiety. It's led to dissatisfaction when, by all accounts, when you look on paper, it was, I was a high achieving student. I had the highest GPA on the team. I was an All-American. I was a 2-year captain. I was a national team member for 3 years. A medalist at Europeans, a medalist at the Olympics. I did things in my athletic career that I know some kids and some athletes are only dreaming of. And so it hurts my heart now as an adult, now being 35 and looking back and wanting to take that 19-year-old, that 20-year-old in my hands and saying, it's okay, you're doing enough. But
Yeah,
it's taken.
sounds like you were a real slacker, Margaux,
Oh yeah, no, yeah, and at that time, mental health was not talked about the way it's talked about now. It was very much seen as something you hide. I remember when my coach made me tell my team that I was seeing the therapist and that I was suffering from anxiety and depression, and I was so embarrassed to be telling my teammates this at 20 years old, that I was going to be seeing a therapist. And now I'll scream it from the rooftops that I have a therapist who I love. I see her weekly, and I don't know what I'd do without her. But at that age and at that time, I didn't see it that way. And now, thanks to athletes who are talking openly, like Michael Phelps, like Simone Biles, Naomi Osaka, who are coming out and saying like, hey, we're humans too. And this pressure of being at this level for so long can eventually break us down because you see yourself as just this perfect being. And because I didn't know any different, I kind of went right into another world that was as intense and as in the spotlight. Like I went into TV broadcasting, and that quickly escalated. I went from being 15 months in the middle of nowhere, Texas, to Hartford, Connecticut. and then being on the anchor desk within 6 months. And, also that was a whirlwind, and not looking at myself and saying, hey, Margaux, you're 26 years old and you're an anchor in Hartford. Like, appreciate this moment. Me just thinking, okay, but how do I get to New York? How do I get to Boston? And it took
And oh, by the
until,
way, like at any moment in time, again, one of the core afflictions that we suffer from when we're wired like that is, and hey, are you even having any fun? Like, do you
yeah.
even like this, or are you just in pursuit of what comes next? Or is there some part of the Venn diagram of joy and fulfillment that crosses over with what you get to do every day? And somewhere that's where the wisdom starts to show up, is that you can actually live a full, complete, happy, and fulfilled life and also achieve and succeed and drive toward higher experiences. You can have both.
Yeah, you can. And you have to have both because, so I left television in October of 2021. It's been 4 years that I've been at my current role now. I'm chief of staff at a mental health and addiction nonprofit. So I oversee all of their communications and media. So I still get touches with media, and I still freelance with the Big Ten Network. So I get to do some swimming commentary, and it's not all lost. And that part is when I still have fun because it's sporadic. But my job now, what I've come to find fun is having a work-life balance,
Mm.
is prioritizing time with my family, is being able to have vacations. I
Mm.
think it's great. It's great to have a time and a place where you're grinding and vacation's not the focus, and time off is not the focus. And I did that for years. Coming home on Christmas Eve and swimming Christmas morning, and doing all the things where you feel like you're missing out. And now that I'm older and I feel like I put that time in when I was younger, I said, my priorities and my values have shifted. And I think if I want to still reach that level of success in a different realm, I have to also nurture those other things. Because for me, it feels successful to be able to have a Christmas morning at home where I'm not in a pool or I'm not on a TV desk or standing in a snowstorm. That is a version of success for me too now. So the definition of success has also really kind of shifted.
I'm going to take a step again into the deeper end of the pool here for a second, because I think one of the things that creates this dynamic you're describing is it's again it's so much of it's programming. It's how we're raised. It's the environment we're raised in, and it's what we're taught to see as success. So at some point in our young life, we're given an experience. And by the way, this isn't always from our parents. Like, this just somewhere is programmed into you that you're taught to see what is success. And then at some point through your adolescence and growth, you pick that and then you shoot for it, right? And then you dive all in, especially when you're in this high achiever mindset, and you drive toward it, thinking that that is the goal, that's the thing. But what you realize at some point is that you're living your life measuring your success by someone else's yardstick. Like, you're using someone else's version of success to determine whether or not you think you're successful. And the failure, the lack of fulfillment comes in when you actually get to that point and achieve it and realize, like, I don't feel any different. I don't feel any better. For people on this call, this is relevant because a lot of us are chasing money or accolades, or we want to be number one, or we want to be recognized. I mean, there's a lot of agents out there that are doing that. And yesterday during our business retreat, I talked about unplugging the audio from the video and just looking at it in real time and figuring, where are you actually? Because the ultimate goal is not whether other people think you're successful, it's living an exceptional life. And so in our business, we have extraordinary opportunity to do that by serving our communities, by selling lots of homes, by making lots of money. All of these things are available to us. And yet some people, it'll never be enough, because unless they're winning by someone else's yardstick, they'll never feel like they're actually winning. And so the real inner work, right, is deciding, well, what's winning for you? And I love the way you articulated that, because you said being home on Christmas morning is winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to know that, like, your definition of winning is going to change over time.
Right.
So, at 26 years old, I was willing to be the one who said, no, I don't have kids. I'm not married. You guys go home. I will work Christmas morning. I want to grind it out. Extra hours, give them to me. And then as I started to get into my 30s and I'm newly married, and now I started to think of these things where I was like, well, I'm kind of tired of always being the one that has to give up the holiday. And maybe now it's my turn to have that and getting to experience that. Because I think it's all a dance and you can only dance it for so long. So
Yeah.
if you are not consciously altering your goals and consciously thinking about what makes you happy, then I think you will fall prey to at some point falling into some type of sadness around it. And I think it's also why you have to disperse yourself into multiple categories. I was always saying when I was swimming, and I would, kind of go at it with my coach, because I was definitely in the days of really ignoring any of the NCAA requirements for time limits and anything like that. So I would go head to head with my coach and saying like, "Hey, I think we're doing way too much." And he would come back and say, "No, you're not." And I'd say to him, "I'm a student athlete, not an athlete student. And swimming is a part of my life, but it is not my life." And I
Mhm.
felt that way in TV as well. TV was a part of my life, but it's not my life. And I think, same thing with you guys. Real estate has to be a part of your life, but it can't be your entire life. Because then when you make that big sale, when you get that accolade that you really want, and you're saying, well, what else is there? Well, if you're also a father and you also play in a softball league and you also maybe go to church and maybe you have a gym that you go to and you have these other things and there's accolades and happiness that lives in other pockets, then you don't spread yourself thin versus, and it's hard to do when you're like a high level athlete and you have to be all in. I wasn't doing broadcasting in school. I took one broadcast class. I did all my undergrad in advertising because they were during swim practice. So I
Wow.
didn't have the fortunate nature at the time to have too many buckets to spread out. So sometimes it really did feel like if I missed a time, if I didn't get on the podium, if I didn't get into finals, it felt really heavy because I didn't have other things to turn to and say, well, you know what? The swim meet didn't go well today, but my kids got this at school and that was great, or I got to have this favorite meal, and I was too locked into swimming and swimming only to not see the beauty of other things in life. And I think that's when you can dampen your success. I was young, so it was easy at that point because you really only have school and your sport to do. But as you get older and life comes into play, you better have other things that are giving you happiness and feelings of reward, because if not, it's going to feel really lonely on the back end if that one thing you're putting all your eggs into doesn't work out.
Well, and I love this conversation. I really do. It's like one of the core principles that I'm constantly trying to teach people because real estate's a really hyper competitive business. There's hundreds of thousands of real estate agents all competing for the same thing. 85% of the people that get into the business are out of the business within 2 to 3 years because they just simply can't hack it. They can't make it. It's so competitive. And what you're talking about is so valid because there is this weird thing though that like in the beginning you do have to go all in. Like the idea of a work-life balance in your first year in real estate is a complete and total falsehood. Like it's never going to happen. Like you're never ever going to build a thriving, successful career if you don't put more energy up front. But there's a pendulum swing where it gets easier and easier the longer you're doing it. But in the beginning, you've got to be all in. And the risk is that you never figure out how to take your foot off the gas, right? That you never figure out how to actually find fulfillment. And we've got several people on the team now that are into that like third year of the business where they're starting to feel success, starting to see the rewards of all the effort they've put in. And now this conversation shows up where it's like, and make sure you're spending a lot of really quality time with your family and make sure you're scheduling those vacations that are important to you because now you're getting the reward of all the hard work. But it's tricky for people because turning that mechanism off, especially as a high achiever, it's like, well, yeah, I hit this benchmark, but that's not enough. And I suffered through that for 15 years until one day you wake up and you realize like, hey, my kids are getting older. The time that I get to spend with them is getting less. I need to reprioritize. I need to figure out how to live inside of this balance. So how did you do it, Margaux? How did you turn the noise off? You were at that high. When did it happen for you? Was there a pinnacle moment? Was there an event, or was it something that just through, doing the work?
I think it's going to come back to routine for me. I'm a highly routine oriented person. And for me, I notice even to this day, and my routine is nowhere near as rigid. Sometimes I look at my day now and I'm like, how did I used to do that? Now I have to go to the grocery store and one other store, and my afternoon is ruined. And before it was like, you're doing class, you're doing 6 hours of exercise, you're doing homework, you're doing all of it. Um, it comes back to routine because I notice now when I don't have a routine, if I let myself slip from some of the things that I know just work for me, then I start to notice everything else around me start to go down. When you're at that level where your day, I mean, not a second to spare, you have to be so organized and so routine driven. And I heard you saying before when you were, when I was in the beginning of the call where you were talking about what people were doing and where they're posting their goals and how they're looking at things. I was an agenda book girl. I was notes, lists, tracking it. I was, okay, well, what's my day look like tomorrow? And what's the color that I'm wearing for lifting in the gym? Because we had to be told, Wednesdays is red. Okay, so let me get my red shirt out ahead of time. Let me get, my bathing suit ready for morning practice so that bag is ready to go. To decrease the minimal decisions that really don't matter, like getting your bag out the door, having your protein bar ready to grab before you get in the car, all of that, make it a no-brainer so that when you get up and those other things, you keep that brain power, that brain energy for the things that are very difficult and hard. So making things easy where they can be easy. For me, that was if I knew we had a swim meet, like NCAAs and Big Ten championships were always the same time every year. I could pre-plan in second semester ahead of time with the syllabus. Okay, I need to be ahead of schedule. I need to be doing this assignment this week because we are traveling this week. It was all planning. Because then when it came time to it, I mean, this goes back to even when I was a freshman. And as a freshman, I'm sure many of you can relate. A lot of times you take those stupid elective classes to just kind of fill out your schedule, and you do them your freshman year. And I had somebody who gave me a piece of advice and said, save those classes. You're going to want them when you're older.
Mhm.
And I took my elective in journalism because I had been thinking about broadcasting, saved my electives. And wouldn't you know that the second semester of my senior year, I took fencing, and then I went to bowling, and then I went to billiards. And that was my Monday and Wednesday. And I
Oh,
held out for 4 years with those electives because
that
I knew it was going to be an Olympic year. I knew that I was going to be hyper focused. I was going to be missing time from school, and I did not want a super intense second semester of senior year. So this kind of forecasting started way back when. Like, you got to save that. Make it hard now. I always used to tell myself I would take classes in the summer to decrease my credits so I could take 12 instead of 15 in the fall maybe. I was always thinking at what's going to be hard now so it can be easy later, because it's still going to be hard. So what can you make a little bit easier? And maybe it's the fact that you got your schoolwork taken care of. Maybe it's the fact that you don't have to think about what you're wearing tomorrow. Maybe it's the fact that you already meal planned. Make those things that seem like such low level fruit, like the low hanging fruit, they are low hanging fruit for a reason. So just get them out of the way, because then when you need to prepare yourself for practice or for a meet, or for you guys, maybe it's an open house, maybe it's a meeting with a client, you've taken care of the innocuous stuff that's just kind of noisy, like you said, the running lists that have to get done, but that you don't want to dedicate energy to. So
I I'm such a fan of that concept. I don't know, there we have so much training on the team that we teach people so that they don't have to think. Like, and we always say, like, get it right in practice so you don't have to figure it out during the game, right? Like, so get all that stuff. I love that concept of, like, do the hard stuff first, save the easy, or make the easy so simple that you don't have to think about it. And there's so many places in our business where that could show up. There's so much stuff. Oh God, I love it. I love it, Margaux. So what's the career path look like now? So you shift gears, you get out of TV, get out of
yes.
broadcasting, and you said chief of staff. Where are you doing that? What do you do every day? How's your career
So
look right now?
It's called the Root Center for Advanced Recovery. It's formerly known as the Hartford Dispensary. So it's one of the oldest nonprofit organizations in the state. We've been around since 1871. We are most known for being a methadone dispensary, but we also do a lot of mental health care and other addiction care. We serve 5,500 people a day across 14 clinics. So that's not even a week or a month. It is 5,500 people a day coming through our doors. And I had somebody who said to me at an event, I remember when I got the job, And I had somebody who said to me, he said, why are you going to leave TV and you're going to do this job? Because you're going to have people who are alive one day and they're dead the next.
Ooh.
And I said, well, in TV, when I show up at the story, 9 times out of 10, the person is already dead. And there's nothing for me to do except for saying my condolences to the family and sharing a crowdfunding source if there happens to be one for that particular story. I
Mm.
said, so I don't think I'm going to solve the mental health epidemic or the opioid epidemic. But if somebody maybe sees an ad that I did or a campaign that I ran or something and learns about who we are, and maybe says, hey, that's a place I would like to go work, or hey, that's a place I would like to go recover. Hey, that's a place I'd like to bring my children because we have adolescent services. Then I feel like I've done something, because before it was very superficial. And I loved the tourism beat. When I did the tourism beat on TV, that was fun. It was showcasing mom and pop shops, giving a voice to people who should be on TV, what local news is about. But when I was going to the car crashes and the drug busts and the shootings and all of that, I had my fair share of it and I was done with it. So I wanted to feel like I was personally doing something a little bit more impactful. And so what I do on a day-to-day basis really kind of depends. I oversee all the social media. So I could be working with our social media manager to talk about what are the different post ideas we have going out. I could be sitting with a patient and filming a testimonial and actually using my journalism skills to interview them and put that together. I might be coordinating a group where I talk with other nonprofit leaders, and I run kind of like a nonprofit boot camp where we talk about how do we get seen? How do we get more media coverage? How do we become better in a world that's trying to cut costs from nonprofits? So it really, every day I wear a different hat, which I think for me, I really enjoy. It's like I came from a sport where I stare at the same black line and go back and forth the same amount of times every day. That when I was in news and when I'm here, I need that versatility. You know, I needed to be at a different story every day, and I need to have a different task every day. So it's a little bit of everything. I say anything that falls under the communications umbrella is what I do. But I get work-life balance. I work at a place that preaches mental health. So, you know, we'd be pretty hypocritical if we didn't have our own mental health in check, and we're trying to help others. So that's what I do
Yeah.
now.
I mean, well, kudos to you for finding a place where you can invest, your energy and your drive into supporting and supporting the community and supporting people. Our mission statement on our team is we empower people, the people we serve and those we serve with. And so that's so in alignment with like sort of core fundamentals of how we believe in, that a life worth living ought to be. I'm interested in just like in your everyday work when you're out there and doing everything, like what now gives you the greatest fulfillment, the greatest joy, right? Like what is the thing that you seek now that you say like, wow, that was really a phenomenal day? Like how do you know you have a great day?
So there's two things. One is when I get to do any type of events. So I love event planning. We just had our first charity golf tournament. I organized that. That was a huge stressor. I did it 1 week before my wedding, which, I'm either crazy or brilliant for planning it that way, but I did it 1 week before my wedding and it was awesome. It was kind of that adrenaline rush of, I don't know how it's going to go. I'm bringing all these people together, high energy, lots of moving parts during the day. And I've had a couple of other events like that I've put on that have been really special. We did a documentary screening with filmmakers out of Boston who did a film on recovery. Organizing that was really special. So I kind of like when I get to have my hands on like big events.
Yeah, cool.
That's kind of my best days. And then also, how I met Tori is that I really love coaching, and it's funny because it's like my side hustle. It's just my little side gig that I do. But I really like it because I love moving my body, but I also love moving my body to music, and with mindfulness incorporated into it. It's just been really special. And I think that the gym has a really great community. And it's just something, it's really powerful to walk out of a room after there's just been blaring lights and really loud music and you're sweating and you're doing the same thing with everybody else. That's just kind of uplifting. So even on my hardest days, on the days where I'm like, oh, I do not want to get on a bike right now and yell at people for 45 minutes, but on the other end of that, I always feel a lot better.
There's some lift. I love it. I have one last question for you, which I think
Yeah.
is like just really going to be super interesting for the team. You didn't grow up in Hartford, right?
No.
Where did you grow up?
So that's like a long-winded question, but for the most part, I grew up in Connecticut, but I'll say Woodbridge, right
Okay.
outside New Haven.
All right. So you were in and around Connecticut, but you
Yeah.
had dual citizenship.
Yes.
And then you went to, where did you go to school?
I went to Indiana for undergrad and I went to University of Southern California for grad school.
Awesome. So been around, traveled the world with the Olympics, competed all around the world, and you came back to Central Connecticut and have established yourself here. And this is home now of all the places you could be. What do you love about living here?
It's so funny because had you asked me that question in 2017, I would have told you I was never coming back.
But
So,
yet here you are.
and
So
here I
what do
am
you love
waving the
about living?
Connecticut flag.
You've had
Um,
all this time and all these experiences because I think you're not alone in that, which is a little bit of the setup behind the question. Because
yes.
I we are ambassadors for our communities in real estate. This is one of
Yep.
the most important things that you can be, is someone who loves where you live. Because the people who want to buy or sell a house in the community need to know that the person that they're hiring loves where they live. So,
Yeah.
what do you love about living here?
I think what I love about living here is that I'm close to my family. And for me it just comes down to that because I have lived many places. I've lived in Indiana, Southern California, Texas was my first job in TV. And I've lived far away from family. I've been in scenarios where I didn't get to see family. Whether I was training or starting out early in broadcasting, I was barely seeing my parents, not coming home for, some of those milestones you had to miss out on. And that started to wear on me. And when I moved back home, actually, like right into my parents' home, into my old pink bedroom, when I was 26 years old. And I was so happy about it because it had been so long since I had had the comforts of home.
Mm.
And when I started to live here and started to work here again, because I always thought, oh, this is a stepping stone. I'm coming back here so I can get to New York, so I can go to Boston, so I can just, go to my next TV station. And the longer time went on, and then eventually, moved in with my now husband, I started to see like there's something really nice about knowing places. Like, oh yeah, no, I know that pizza place. That's the pizza place I grew up with. And we have to get Chinese food from here. That's where we always got it for, my birthday growing up. And oh, have you been to this state park? This is beautiful. I love going on a hike there. And just seeing all these things that I started to remember because I had a positive childhood. For the most part, I think there's all things we'd like to maybe change, but I had a great childhood. And I had these memories, and for the first time ever I wasn't living in someone else's memories. When I was at Indiana, I had a boyfriend in school and he was from Indiana, and so when we would go to his house I'd see all of his stuff and I'd be thinking like, well, I kind of miss mine, like my Christmas traditions and where I would drive at the end of the school year and all those kinds of things. And then same thing in California, and I thought California was going to be it. Loved Los Angeles. And then towards the end of my time there, I just started feeling like, but this doesn't feel like home. So I think sometimes we always say like we wish the grass is greener somewhere else. And oh, I wish I could live in these cool places. And I have lived in some of those cool places. When I was in Texas, I thought, oh, for sure, I'm going to end up in Austin next. And I again just kept coming back to that feeling of it didn't feel like home. So I think sometimes it takes going away and being away. I also think, not to make this political or anything like that, but I think that the way we think in the Northeast was also very inspiring to see when I moved away because I lived in parts of the country where the thinking was not at all the same as it is up here.
Yeah.
And it was shocking. Some of the things I saw and heard and worked on and worked with were very shocking. I could just say that the rest of the country is not necessarily caught up to Connecticut. And so that was also really something that I said, you know what? We've got great schools. We've got beautiful seasons. We've got beautiful houses. We've got the shoreline. Having grown up down close to the shoreline, right outside of Milford, like I said, I missed that. When I was in Indiana, I was like, I mean, the lakes are cool and everything, but can we go to the ocean? Can we go to the beach?
There's enough corn. I mean, come on. How much more
Yes. So
cornfields do
that's
we
what I
need?
love about here. And I also love being by coastal with France. New York to Paris is an easy flight. Being close to New York and Boston, we're in a great location. I just think I've grown for so much more appreciation. You would have asked 18-year-old me and 35-year-old me, and you're getting two different answers on Connecticut.
Hey, I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing. All right, we've got like 5 minutes. If you've got time for maybe a question or a comment
Yeah.
from the group here, I always love to kind of see how everybody's thinking. So Dan, go ahead. What question, comment do you have Margaux.
Yeah, no, I just really appreciate you coming on here. I was a college athlete, and just the stuff you're doing with the recovery really hits home to me. I had three of my teammates are already dead from drugs, suicide, have a bunch other that are still struggling. So I just really appreciate all of that. It's the mental health game of being in athletics and then nothing. A lot of people don't go through that, and it's just really cool to hear your story, and I really appreciate everything. So no
Oh,
real
thank you.
question other than some gratitude.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Nathaniel, what are you thinking?
Hi, Margot.
Hi.
How you doing?
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Hi. I
Hi. It's been a long
recognize you.
time.
Yes,
I
you worked
know.
at my former apartment complex. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
I was like, why do I know this face all of a sudden? Yes. Good to see
I
you.
yeah, good to see you as well. Yeah, you know me at my former career, but I was so glad to see you because somebody said, "Oh yeah, we have Olympic swimmer coming on tomorrow." I'm like, I know an Olympic swimmer, and I never
How many
actually.
Olympic swimmers you know, right?
Yeah, right. Um, just real quick, just want to speak to something I wrote down here. You talked about imposter syndrome. And I just kind of want to speak to something, knowing you, being a high achiever and all of that, you're somebody that's like super kind. And I love how you use that superpower in your life and even in your professional career. It's great to see that you are at this point now. When I knew you, you were in the news field still. And I remember you did a story on the FedEx driver that brought a package to your door and like just like how sweet that was. So I love how you use your power that way. And yeah, you're definitely not an imposter. You're definitely a great
Oh,
person.
thank
So
you.
yeah,
Oh my
that's
gosh,
my
I forgot about that's right. Yeah, he carried like I don't know how many boxes up 3 flights of stairs. That guy was amazing.
yeah, no, that was great. So yep. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Dan Raposo. What are you thinking, buddy?
So I only have one question for you, Margot,
Yeah.
and it's would it be possible for us to get a spin class with you or something like that so that we can get Matt Miale on a spin bike? Because I've been trying to get him to join
Ah,
me for a workout at my gym for
yeah.
almost a year now, and it has not happened. But I feel like if we can get some peer pressure with the rest of the team here, how many people would love to have a spin class with Margot?
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
in, dude. 100%.
All right.
Hey, you tell me when. First of all,
Mm.
you can get a guest pass to Club Studio anytime you want. So it's Club Studio on Tuesdays at 5:30. But if that's something really that you're
Wait,
interested in,
AM? Hold on.
no, 5:30. I don't do the
Good
mornings
Lord.
anymore. That was one thing I gave up.
I recant my vote for in the positive five. Okay. PM.
5:30 p.m. Trust me, I'm
Yes.
not a morning girly anymore. But no, if that's something you guys are interested in, have Tori or someone, that might be something I can email. I can email our folks and see if they would be interested in doing some type of corporate class. If that might, because they're very creative. I can't make promises, but if
How
not, I
many,
can
bi-
tell you to
how
just
many
sign up
bikes
on a
in
guest
the, how
pass.
many bikes in the room?
45. So we
Oh,
can
we
get
got
you in
it.
there.
We are in. I love
Yeah.
it. I love that idea, Dan. And yeah, you got me. I'm in. I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll do it. I love it. I love it.
Nailed it.
Awesome. Tony, what are you thinking, buddy?
Margot, thank you so much for coming on, talking to us. So much great advice. One thing I want you to talk about, and you touched on it a little, how you front load your day.
Yeah.
So as the day goes on, it makes it easier for you to get to whatever you need to get done.
Yeah.
Those days when you were struggling mentally, where you don't want to get out of bed, but you know you had to get it done. Like, is there a mental hack? Like, what do you say to yourself to like, I know Tony Robbins talk about like his mental hack is like, when I say we go, and he just goes and he does what needs to get done. Are you able to talk about that? Like, how do you overcome like when you don't want to do anything, when you're like, fuck all this, I'm not
Yeah.
doing it. Like, what
Yeah,
is,
no, that happens. That happens a lot. And I think, similar kind of how Tony Robbins was saying, and Mel Robbins has one too. It's like the 5 4 3 2 1. At a certain point, there's not much. I can't make it more glamorous than just do it. Just do it. And you have to just literally almost like count yourself down, or just, like if for me, it might be like I'm laying in bed and there's that paralysis and I'm scrolling and I'm doing the emails in bed, but I just like can't pull the trigger to take that first step. I think of what that first thing that I'm going to do is. So maybe it's making the bed. Maybe it's folding some laundry that I didn't get to do the night before. Maybe it's putting the dishes away. Finding a task that I can do that is easy, that will give me a dopamine hit right off the bat. So getting out and front loading it with something that's easy, but that's going to make you feel accomplished. So maybe it's you're out of the bed, make the bed right away. You're out of the bed. Did you put the dishes away last night? Can you pop those away real quick? Something that you're like, wow, okay, I've already accomplished something. It's little, it's quick. It doesn't have to be, don't clean your whole house is not what I'm saying to get you started, but something small. Can you throw a quick load of laundry in before you run out the door? Can you, restock something small that kind of activates you? It's about activating the process of then, okay, well, I made the bed, so I guess I can take my shower. I guess I can, and it kind of sets you up. But you have to set it up with what's that first thing that I can do. And if you're having a particularly challenging day, set the bar low for that first thing. Maybe it's just making the bed. Maybe it's just brushing the teeth on a particularly hard day. But set the bar low and find something that you're going to be like, ding, already did that. So if you feel like you got nothing else done that day, because on some days, for people who are going through a strong bout of depression, some days getting out of the bed is a huge accomplishment. So you have to decide where you are on that day. Be real with yourself. Are you, is it, you also have to be real with yourself. There was like a saying, are you in pain or are you hurt? And there's a big difference in that. So thinking about like, is this a day where I'm really struggling with my anxiety, my depression, and I need to be a little bit more gracious with myself and give myself some grace and compassion? Or is this a day where I'm just not in the mood? Because some days, who's in the mood to get out of work on a Tuesday? If it's raining outside, you want to stay in bed. I do too. So differentiating between pain and hurt. And I think that works with your everyday stuff as well, is this just a tough day and I need to move a little slower and that's okay? Or am I maybe just being a little lazy today and calling yourself on it? So I think it's having a very real awareness about how it is that you're feeling and then setting yourself up for those easy wins. Don't make the hardest task of your day the first thing you have to do. When I talk about front loading, like, yes, I'm going to get the hardest things done. But a lot of those things are easy things. Picking out your outfit, maybe setting up your breakfast, maybe preparing the coffee station. They're not difficult things to do, but they're easy things to get out of the way. And then once you do them, you have that little dopamine spike of, oh, I checked that off my list. So that's what I would do.
Super, super great advice. That's awesome. That right there, like we're gonna chunk that down, record it, and we're gonna replay that. Really sincerely, awesome stuff right there. Getting the right things done in the right order, picking something small to win first, huge. Like that's monumental. And then training. I love the idea of like training your mind that you're in charge, not your mind. Remember, your brain is always trying to compromise you from doing the hard stuff. That's like what your brain is programmed to do, to keep you safe, to keep you comfortable. Like, don't do the hard stuff. Like, your brain doesn't want you to do it. And that's the whole Tony Robbins thing and the Mel Robbins thing is like, no, you're in charge. And it's
Well, your
like,
brain's always going to try to hijack you. And I tell my class that all the time. Whenever I say, if you want to break, if you think that you're really at your breaking point, count to 10. Count to 10, because if you count to 10, you're 10 seconds further along. Was your brain really just trying to hijack you, or did you really need a second? Because your body's going to follow with what your brain tells it. And I always say between the ears is the strongest muscle of the body, and we've got to work that too.
I love it. Margaux, so much gold in there. Thank you. Deb, what are you thinking?
Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to try to do this quick. It's Margaux, it's almost like you and Matt Miale have the share a brain. So much of what you've said, I've heard from Matt's mouth. And it's almost like you were at our training yesterday, because one of the first things you said is once you hit a goal, you're like, what's next? And Matt talked a lot about that yesterday and taking the time to appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then living in so much of what you said is relatable to real estate. And Matt has said, living in the lows, living in the mundane, like that is the hardest thing for realtors to do. We all are we're so pumped when we have a closing. Like, that's not what it's about. It's living in the lows, the boring stuff, doing that boring stuff every single day. And also making it hard now. When you talked about that for college, that is so our motto, like, make it hard now, do all the hard stuff now, and then all of us on this team have no agents who are just living on referrals. They don't even have to do any of the hard work anymore, as they become a seasoned agent and going after the low hanging fruit. So just so many things that you said that I've heard for so many years. And it's funny because a lot of times we relate our work to football, to sports in general. So it was such a great fit to have you, and just thrilled to have you to have given time to us today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, pleasure. A true pleasure.
Thanks, Deb. Margaux, you for today, you get to check the box that says that you made a difference today, because you really, you certainly fulfilled on empowering this team and giving us a lot to think about as we head into the weekend, to go do our job and go do the things that we do to serve our community at the highest level. Before I let you go, before we depart, how can we help you? What can we do for you? You've got an attentive audience here that's ready to support whatever mission you're on. Certainly, we're going to show up at a spin class, it sounds like, and we're going to support you by giving you a whole afternoon and a whole class full of entertainment at the least. But how can we support you? Where can we find you on social media? Is there some initiative that we can support? Is there something that we can show up and say, thank you, Margaux, for sharing your time with us?
Oh, well, thank you. Well, by all means, if you'd like to come to a spin class, yes, Tuesdays at 5:30. And then on actually a serious note, my husband and I do want to buy a house at some point.
Well, hey,
we are renting. We are renting right now. We are in that awesome little dance. We're doing that right now because the market hasn't been really friendly to us. So we've just been waiting. We love our townhome.
Just been waiting to meet the right realtor, and Tori is your girl.
Yes.
She's your girl. She's got you. She's got the training. She's got the support. She's got the #1 team in Connecticut behind her to help you and your husband find what you're looking for. So.
There we go. So that, and then next time, if we have a golf tournament or another charity event, I'll hit you guys up, and you guys are more than welcome to come and join us.
Well, anything at all that I can do to support you, if you are looking for, tea sponsors, things like that, please don't hesitate to reach out. We always want to support the people who support us. And so thank you. Thank you.
What's the social media, Margaux? Where can we find
social media? Yeah, I'll put that in the chat. And I have to say, did you go to Keene State?
Oh boy, I did. Yes. Yeah.
My husband went to Keene State. We were just there last weekend for Pumpkin Festival.
So was I. Yes.
Oh, you were? Okay. Yeah. We were at Lab and Lager and.
Yes. Yeah. All roads lead to Keene State College. My son is there as a freshman this year, which is absolutely wild. And my wife and I met there in 1994. When I was a sophomore, she was a senior. She took total advantage of me as an older woman. And then on we went to a 32, I think we're closing on 33 years now. So
wow, yeah, he swam there. So we went back, we went and looked at the pool, we did the whole thing, and I love it.
He has still to this day quite a pretty competitive swimming program.
Yeah, no, he loved it. He loved it there. And my parents have a place in Vermont, so we're not too far. So we drive down, and beautiful campus. Yep. So,
awesome. Yes.
Go Owls.
That's why it's there, right there. It's like,
I know I'm not in my office right now, or else you'd see all the Indiana and Go Trojans garb,
Love it. I love it. Well, thank you again, Margaux. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day. All right, guys, you know the drill. We spent a lot of time yesterday working on the perfect plan to get you teed up for 2026. And today's as good a day as any to get started. There's nothing to wait for. This weekend, going to be an awesome weekend. It's going to be beautiful and tons of opportunities to get out there, get your open houses booked. So go make it an amazing day, everybody. You know the drill. Sign, sell, set. Nothing else to do. See you later.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Margaux. Thank you.
Anytime.